My name is Rachel Newman, and I'm Editor-in-Chief of Country Living magazine. I'm delighted to join you here today at the special Thomasville seminar. The country lifestyle and how it has evolved as America's favorite is a favorite subject of mine, and that of the two senior editors who are here with me as well. Jason Kontos, our executive editor, and Robin Mayer, our decorating editor. Jason, along with me, supervises all aspects of decorating and design for the magazine, and Robin is in charge of our decorating pages and oversees our monthly Country Classics column. We have an exciting program planned for you, one that is full of decorating ideas and one that we hope will also be a lot of fun. I don't think any of us are surprised to find ourselves visiting a shop called Country Inns and Back Roads. It's the kind of place where all of us who love country like to wander in and browse, because it reflects the kind of lifestyle our magazine began featuring more than a decade ago. You see, the name of our magazine, and now this specialty home furnishing shop, reflect the strength of the country movement, which actually began emerging in the late 1970s. In fact, the first issue of Country Living appeared in 1978, and we're very proud that we were the first magazine to identify and celebrate the style that would become America's favorite. The fact that more than 11 million people now read Country Living every month will give you some idea of just how prominent it's become. To give you a little background, the first strains of the country look surfaced in the 1970s, when Americans began preparing for the country's 200th birthday. Concurrent with the preparations for the bicentennial, inner cities were being renovated and rehabilitated across the country. As the restoration process began of older historic homes, we were forced to study and become familiar with American style. So a new, strong pride in things American was born. You could say our nation's bicentennial was a catalyst for establishing renewed interest in the classic American style, but in a more relaxed, down-home way of living. I call it a friendly version of the strict American colonial style. And Country Living was the first magazine to recognize the emergence of this style. Today, this renewal has evolved into a comfortable and less pretentious style that many of us have chosen as our favorite decorating style. This country look has come to signify and symbolize more than just a decorating trend. When you browse through the pages of Country Living, you soon begin to understand that country has evolved into an all-encompassing lifestyle, much like you will find here in the Country Inns and Back Road shop. It is an ideal as well as an aesthetic which has become a reflection of our collective personality as a society. We can simply say that country today has become an attitude, a state of mind, the lifestyle of choice. Now, I don't want you to think that I'm getting too esoteric. At Country Living, we feel there are many reasons for the growth and appeal of country. It's warm, it's personal, it's comfortable, cozy, honest, and inviting. It reflects the hand-hewn craftsmanship of our American heritage found in furniture, folk art, textiles, and especially the handicrafts. The country look is not intimidating. It is relaxed. You know you can just put up your feet and relax and be comfortable. With country, you don't have to take yourself quite so seriously. Part of that has to do with the fact that country is inspired by ideas, antiques, and handicrafts collected from all over America. And even though country has its roots in the colonial period, you don't have to live within the strict boundaries of colonial style. That means it can be adapted to both casual lifestyles like Thomasville's country cottage, or it can be a more formal interpretation like Thomasville's American parlor. The setting can be traditionally American, where the home is simple in character, with authentic antiques and crafts working together to recreate the traditions of the past. Or it can be rustic, where the furniture is more rugged and primitive, perhaps presenting the painted looks we feature so often in our magazine. And quite frequently, the interiors are eclectic, like this mix of Native American blankets and primitive furnishings which combine to form a comfortable, warm environment. The common thread is a cherished appreciation for the furniture, art, and household goods of our ancestors. Elements which incorporate every culture and national heritage in enriching the country look with new and unique personalities. The whole American experience is one that has benefited enormously from the wide variety of regional and ethnic influences brought to this country by our ancestors. The fishing paraphernalia you find in this sportsman's room in the country inns and back roads shop have little in common with a New England quilt or a Navajo blanket. But in terms of decorating, all three are examples of the way country has released our inhibitions. Now we can make our homes both personal and comfortable in a way that's uniquely American. Another thing you should know is that the interiors you'll find in the pages of Country Living aren't confined to specific buildings or architectural styles. Whether you live in a log cabin, an updated Victorian, a new colonial, or an apartment building on a bustling city street, country is a style that can move into any architectural space. Now, the country look doesn't just happen by itself, and you should know that just a little bit of advanced planning will go a long way in decorating your home. Buying furniture, fabrics, and accessories which are made today is a good way to start. You can mix the new pieces with the antiques and heirlooms you've acquired over time and let the two blend gracefully together. Some homeowners might consider stenciling a wall, stitching a quilt, or making a needlepoint rug. But the most important thing to remember is that you're creating your own home by mixing the furniture styles and collections of accessories you love. Abundance is another key word when you're thinking country. In fact, layering is one of the foundations of the whole country look, and that includes layering color upon color, fabric upon fabric, and object upon object. When it comes to objects, personal collections are one of the most effective ways to achieve a country look in your home. Many of you have collections of your own which will fit perfectly into a country theme. If you don't own a collection, it's easy to start one. But remember, a collection begins with just one piece. Look around your home and picture the things you have acquired. Or take your inspiration from the private collections you see in the pages of Country Living. These collections bring a warm, lived-in look to a home, reflecting the owner's personal interests. Of course, country has evolved into a lifestyle that goes way beyond home furnishings and collections. It includes your food, frequently cooked from scratch with fresh herbs and other natural ingredients. It includes handicrafts and hobbies like needlework and gardening. And it even includes the way you travel. Perhaps I should say especially the way you travel. We've seen an enormous growth in the popularity of country inns, and this is directly related to America's love of the country lifestyle. Inns like these and the stories about them which appear in Country Living are some of the most popular features in our magazine. And that's because so many of these charming inns are excellent resources for country decorating ideas, as well as delightful places to relax and unwind. In fact, most of the inns we featured were originally private homes that have now been opened to the public as pleasant alternatives to the impersonal character of large hotels and motels. These comfortable and cozy homes are small, relatively undiscovered museums for country furniture and handicrafts. That's why the Thomasville designers tell us they went to the inns to research the country inns and backroads collection. As you look through the pages of our magazine, you've probably noticed that a large part of the ambiance of the country look comes from the layering and the lived-in look of collections. Now, one thing I can tell you, everybody's into collecting these days, and collecting is of prime importance to our readers. Many people are afraid to put collections like these on display because they're so valuable, so they don't put anything out. Others are unaware of simple design techniques that can be used to improve the quality of the presentation. In order to help you, Thomasville has invited us to use pieces of furniture from the Country Inns and Back Roads shop to demonstrate some of our ideas about displaying collections. Now, Jason and Robin are going to join me to talk about some specific collections. Jason, what collections and techniques have you chosen?
Well, Rachel, the first collection I'm going to talk about are cookie jars displayed on a cottage sideboard. Recently, a large collection of cookie jars was discovered from Andy Warhol's estate. At one time, you could just get cookie jars from the 40s and the 50s for $5 and $10, and everyone just remembered it being on the counter in the kitchen, and now it's become a craze. The cookie jar is a very large item, and if you have several of them, it can be overbearing. So you have to think of scale of the wall or the room that you're using in, and the cottage sideboard is a high piece and a long piece. And in proportion, the cookie jars kind of work with it. I've balanced the colors, I've balanced the cartoony ones separately so they don't overbearing the right side of the sideboard. You have to show the best side of each one, and you don't want to distract one from each other. So there is a point of symmetry and color balance. It depends on if your collection has more flowers, or it has more animals, or it has more buildings. If you have a combination of all of them, you have to give them all their fair share. Cookie jars are really a very personal thing. If you find the humor in it and it makes you smile and you really enjoy them, then it is for you. And it ends up being a game as you go around and find more of them. It should always be a fun, whimsical collection. And what could be more American than cookies? This next collection is tea caddies, which are a lot more intricate than cookie jars. Tea was a luxury, which led to very intricate, elaborate containers to hold the tea in. This collection of tea caddies have a much more formal and architectural look, which is why I'm showing them on the Empire sideboard. The silver and the precious woods look terrific on the dark mahogany. I try to balance the silver and I tried to balance the woods. The placement of the tea caddies, it's more of an architectural approach. It's done in symmetry. The only thing that makes it slightly different is the ivy plant and the candlestick. These tea caddies are probably the most valuable collection we're showing. People have a tendency to lock things like this up. We really urge you to show these around in your home because these tea caddies are so beautiful. Graniteware is the last collection I'll be showing. I'll be displaying it on the gathering table. Graniteware was one of the first country collectibles and still is a very large collecting item. Graniteware is from the late 19th century. It's the first enamelware. Most graniteware is found in blue and white. Green and white is a very hard one to find. That's a collector's piece. Once in a while you'll find yellow and white and you'll find red and white. You should group all your collection together first to study what you have and then decide what shapes work well together and then either mix the colors or create some pattern with the color. The collection can be overwhelming. It can get too corny. I've mixed the graniteware with some other items on the table to break it up. But I have grouped some of the shapes together. You'll see in the back some of the coffee pot shapes are similar, and then on to my right are the pictures. You shouldn't be disciplined in the fun of collecting things, but you should be disciplined slightly in the presentation of your collection.
Thanks, Jason. Those are great ideas. Now, Robin, what are you up to?
Well, Rachel, I'll be working with teacups today, which are normally seen in the living room or the dining room. Even though teacups usually deal with the service of tea and are seen in those rooms, I've decided to put them in the bedroom. I put the teacups on the field flowers chest in the bedroom because the flower motif in the teacups is reflected in the front of the chest, which is very feminine and ornate. I also put flowers in the teacups because I feel that that gives the eye a place to stop and rest instead of falling off the edge of the teacups, which are generally always one height. I also put some of the saucers on stands so that one could see the floral motif of some of the saucers, and also it helps to change the height of the display. The second collection I'm going to be discussing today is linens and quilts. Many of us receive them from our grandmothers or our mothers or our aunts and uncles, and we don't know how to display them. Many people hide their linens in drawers, and I think that they should take them out of the drawers and put them on shelves and display them so that everyone can enjoy them. Some of the things I thought about were creating different shapes and sizes, not just having napkins stacked on napkins or pillowcases stacked on pillowcases. So I folded some things a little differently. If there was a round or an oval, I let that shape or size show itself also. The ribbons were used to break up the white and to create some pattern. And also we put in some little potpourri bags. People oftentimes have old linens that they can't use anymore, but it's a shame to throw them out, so you can fill them with potpourri and help to scent your linens. I put the quilts on the bottom because I think that it's more interesting to have the large shape fill the space in the bottom and not catch your eye when you open the door immediately. I would probably, in displaying my linens, leave the door open part of the time, and as the mood dictates, close the door other times. If I know that people are coming around who enjoy seeing my collections, I would probably leave the door open. In this case, I put a piece of linen on the door just to carry the theme through to the exterior of the piece, as well as having the linens on the inside. The last collection I'm going to talk about today is bird cages. This time, instead of putting them in a cupboard or on shelves, I place them around the room. Bird cages are light and fanciful and therefore add a bit of whimsy to the room. Bird cages were popular during Victorian times, and we have a nice selection of them in this bedroom. I find that I use bird cages a lot when I'm styling a shot for the magazine because I think they're both architectural and romantic at the same time. Obviously, you don't have to have birds to have bird cages, and in some cases we put dried flowers in them.
Thanks, Robin. That's a truly wonderful collection of bird cages. Now I'd like to show you a very traditional collection, shown on a traditional piece of furniture, but shown in an untraditional location. Everybody has china and silverware in their homes. And sometimes your fine china is so lovely, you don't want to pack it away. You'd like to display it. Now, the classic place, the traditional place to show your china would be in a dining room, just as the traditional place for a cupboard such as this would probably be in the kitchen. We've moved the whole collection and the furniture into the living room. The china is absolutely jewel-like. It's beautiful. So we've massed it on the upper two shelves. We've mixed with it a collection of antique teapots. And then, because this cupboard has a wonderful spoon rack, we've been able to do a repetitive theme of silver spoons going right across the bottom two rows. A point you might want to remember in displaying any collection is to mass it together. If there's a lot of color and a lot of pattern, when it's all massed together, it forms a little piece of art all by itself. Another point you might want to remember is that repetition forms a pattern in itself. And here we've repeated the rows of spoons on top of the patterns of the china. So we're, in a sense, illustrating the layering that we talked about before. The last collection I'm going to be working with is that of decoys. Now, everybody has china or linens, and they might even have a few teapots around, but not everybody has a large collection of decoys such as we have here. Decoys can be primitive, they can be refined and painted, they can be large, small. They're of particular interest to Americans because they are North American game birds. The interesting thing about them is that these days Europeans are beginning to collect them because they're so typically American, and American collectibles are becoming very popular right across Europe, even into Tokyo. This country cupboard was probably designed to hold something other than decoys, but I felt that it was the perfect place to display all of these pieces because they're all different sizes, the shelves are open, and there's plenty of space between the shelves for some of the larger decoys. We frequently see people displaying their decoys singly or one by one or polka dotted around their house in little vignettes, but I feel that they become much more important as a collection if they're gathered together on one piece. We hope you've enjoyed the tips we've been giving you for displaying your collections in the country inns and back road shop. But now you'll have a chance to see if we practice what we preach. You'll be joining Jason, Robin, and me in our own homes, and this time I'll go first. People in the last 10 or 20 years have really taken to collecting almost more than they've taken to sports. There are even people that have bumper stickers that say, "I break for antique shops." And I have to confess I'm one of them. I'll say it's a passion. It's almost a sickness, but I love doing it. There's kind of a joke around the office, and that is if something has checks on it, I'll like it. And it's because I started a collection of something that I found years ago, and it's a sgraffito-type check ceramic, and no one knew anything about it. In the years of collecting it, I have found a few pieces that are stamped Czechoslovakia, so I know they were made in Czechoslovakia before the Second World War. That's all I know. I think I'm the only one in the world collecting it. And in all these years of collecting, I've only found about 30 pieces. I've found it everywhere. No one can tell me anything about it. What I wanted to do with this collection was really present it as sort of a graphic mass of pattern. And it took me quite a while to find the right piece of furniture for it, but I finally found a cupboard that had enough shelves to house all of the pieces. And then I added a few pieces of majolica into the background. People generally look at this and their first question is, what is it? Some people think it's cute. I can't answer the first question, but I think that most people react to the graphic presentation. The second collection I'd like to talk about is my majolica collection. And what it is a highly glazed ceramic with a lot of nature themes, a lot of flowers, sometimes animals. And it was made originally in Italy, but most of the pieces really were done in England, France, and in the United States about the turn of the century. The reason I like it is because of the color, the high color. And I've collected it basically to go with different color themes that I have in my apartment. And this collection is basically pink and blue. And I put all of the pink and blue pieces in this piece of furniture because it's a very unusual pink step-back cupboard. So my reason for massing it in this particular cupboard is color only, not necessarily the style, but the color. One of the things I particularly like about majolica is that each piece is like a little jewel, a little painting. The designs are very intricate and the colors are very, very delicate. So actually each piece could stand alone, but I think the group of them massed together, it gives a wonderful feeling. One of the pieces in this cupboard is not majolica, and that's the little folk art pig. And this kind of echoes something we like to do in our magazine too. We always feel that you shouldn't take yourself too seriously, so we like to inject a little bit of whimsy in everything that we do. And so that's why I've put a pig here among my majolica plates. If I weren't a magazine editor, I'd like to be an archaeologist, and that interest developed back in college when I was doing a term paper on frescoes. So rather than being an archaeologist, I became a hunter in antique shops for Roman wall fresco lithographs, and that is what I'm collecting here in this third collection. What I decided to do was to put them all together on one wall, hung very close together. Most people, when they display paintings or prints, they usually put them singly on a wall all by themselves, and I decided that since these were so small and they were varying sizes, that I'd display them as one focal point, as one collection of art all together. And what I'm doing now is I've started at one end of the wall, and as I gather more, I will just sort of work my way down the wall. In the meantime, I'll have lots of negative space to play with around the collection. When I moved into this apartment, I had so many collections, I didn't know how I'd fit them all in. And I knew that I did not want to be a slave to taking care of them, so I decided that I would pare down and have only some of them out. And in order to keep the rest hidden away, I had to have something built, some storage built. In fact, what I ended up doing was building a 23-foot-long storage cabinet for all the collections that I'm hiding away. It's also a way to have an excuse to perhaps buy a few more things. Jason, your design philosophy and collections are a little bit different. What can you tell us about them?
It's based on texture and architectural influence. No matter where I go, if I'm going to a special city, I'm going to read up to make sure I'm going to see all the architectural sites that are important. I think I've been all around the Mediterranean. Spain, France, Italy. I go to Greece a lot, Turkey, Israel, Egypt, North Africa, meaning Morocco and Tunisia. So I think I've completely gone around both sides of it. Just a few times. I seem to come back with a lot of things. It's a fun hobby. I like collecting just about every trip I go on, so even business trips, we managed to squeeze in a few antique stores or flea markets. I have a Bachelor of Fine Art degree, and I was trained to be an art teacher and didn't go into becoming an art teacher. I eventually got into interior design, but I had a lot of training in art history. And when I finally went into interior design, it really helped out because it's a composition and a reference to old antiquities. This painting I found in an antique store in Lower Manhattan and tried to sell it to a client, and was afraid it was too religious for them. But I was the one who fell in love with the painting. and it's a 19th century study of a 16th century fresco that's in a house in Rome. I think this is one of the best studies. I like reference to old accessories. I like using them with contemporary furniture and traditional furniture. I don't like really a hard-edge accessory. I get bored of it after a while. Maybe a candlestick, but I like things that have a patina to it, that have aged. There's a door behind me. That's a Moroccan door. It's a harem door, and I like the little stars in it and the beading. And the person I was buying it from thought I was crazy because I said no, that he wanted to clean it up, and I was screaming not to clean the dirt off it, just no bugs. But eclectic is a word that's constantly used. No one has come up with a better word, but I think it does suit me. I don't want to live in another time period. I refer to other time periods. I'm living now in the turn of the 20th century, and it's my own formula and composition that makes this my time period. I can do it for other people. I can do it for the magazine. I can decorate for someone's home if they want to really document the period. I'm uncomfortable in it. It's too regimented. I want to feel that I can mix Indonesian with Greek or neoclassic, and if the colors and the textures work, I'm happy and relaxed. And I want my friends to be able to sit down. They can just, they can put their feet up on the chaise or put a drink down without worrying about what they're going to do. Otherwise, it's just a show place, and that's not fun. The bedroom is a little less more formal than the living room. It's based on rustic fabrics and textures, because I like Killam pillows, and I like scrub pine furniture. The room itself is just a very plain rectangle, and I try to bring some more architecture into it. So even the sheets I have an architectural pattern. The lamp is the lamp that I bought in Nantucket, which is a neoclassic lamp, I think, from the 40s, and I think it's the original shade, and it is falling apart, but I won't part with it. I keep taping it, staple gunning it so it stays in place. I think I've created a festive house. It ends up being conversation periods. People come in the house and say, where'd you get this? Why'd you get this? You still have this, they say, and I haven't seen this in a long time, and it's been in the closet. So I do bring things in and out. It is definitely fun. It's a hobby of mine for a long time. Kind of grew up like that, too. Both my parents were collectors.
Thanks, Jason. And now, Robin, tell us about your home.
The house that we're in was once in a town right next door, and because we're on the water, it was moved by barge, which was easier for them to do. It was moved about 17 years ago, and actually when we moved into the house, we didn't think it was quite old enough for the period of our furniture, because our antiques are, I think, a little earlier than the houses, but I think it all goes together and meshes very nicely. I don't really think about what I'm collecting. I just go out and choose pretty things. I think that really I gravitate to pretty things. Sometimes a little fancier, a little frou-frier than we normally show in the magazine, but I like all sorts of things. At first my husband always used to laugh at me. We used to go out and I'd say, well, where am I going to put that? And he'd say, if you like it, you just get it, and then you'll find a place for it. And we found a place for everything that we've gotten so far. I don't think that anyone should own something that they can't live with. Nothing is so precious that you can't sit on it or use it. I have a lot of trays and things, or candles that I don't mind having the wax burning down on them, or I never put tablecloths on our old table in the dining room, because I think the patina of age is far prettier than any piece of cloth you could put on top of it. So I really enjoy using what we have. We started collecting trays when we moved into this house, just as a happenstance. I had a tray, and I put it up on the plate rail in the dining room, and I thought, I need more. So I started collecting, and also friends when you have a collection, it's a good excuse for people to give you something when they don't know what to give you. So luckily, friends have been filling in too. And I'm almost running out of space, but I can get a couple more in here, I think. But that's how it started. These are tin and they're painted. I don't know how old they are. I look generally at the overall picture, and I might say, well, I like trays, and so I'm collecting trays, but I think I've stopped with the trays, and now I'll probably move on to something else. I've started collecting Staffordshire plates. So I'm not an in-depth collectors. Some people collect hundreds and hundreds of things and know all about the history of it. I just look at what it looks like, I think.
Thanks, Robin. We hope you've enjoyed seeing our personal collections and some of the display techniques we use in our own homes. Jason, Robin, and I have enjoyed being with you, but we won't keep you any longer. We'll hope to stay in touch with you through the pages of Country Living magazine, or maybe we'll meet you browsing through the country inns and back road shop, especially if you agree with us that country is truly America's favorite lifestyle.